You're listening to episode 40 of A Whole New You podcast. On today's show, we're interviewing Cheyenne Hinkle to discuss the role of step-parent. Cheyenne provides us with a unique perspective on loving children that are not your biological ones. She talks about how she deals with co-parenting and discipline and all of the unforeseen positive benefits of being in the role of stepmother. I learned a lot from Cheyenne and now have a great deal of compassion and understanding of this special relationship. If you know anyone who is a step-parent, this is one you'll certainly want to share. Welcome to A Whole New You podcast. I'm your co-host, Kim Maravich. I'm a registered nurse and author of the book 360 Health. I'm joined by my dear friend, Lori Biddle, a health and wellness coach certified through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Our show exists to inspire and empower women to take charge of their health with weekly tips and conversation about self-care, mindset, nutrition, fitness, and clean living. Please keep in mind that the material provided in this podcast is intended as general information only and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We're thrilled to have you here. Let's get to the show. Before we get to the show, I'd like to read a 5-star review that we received through iTunes. This comes from Samantha Day, and it's titled A Great Listen. She says, "Love how personal this show is. I listen and I feel like I'm chatting with friends about super important topics. A great listen." Samantha, thank you so much for taking the time to leave this review for us. These reviews help boost our rankings in iTunes, and they help people find our show that might not already know about it. So if you're listening right now, you can head over to iTunes, and you can subscribe there and leave us a rating and review while you're there. If you do, we'll be sure to read it on a future episode. Now let's get to the show. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I am pleased to have Cheyenne Hinkle joining us on the podcast. Cheyenne is a full-time stepmother of 3 boys. She's a wife, a second-grade teacher, a spin enthusiast and instructor, and an avid reader and podcast listener. She went from being a single girl that ate takeout most nights and got a minimum of 9 hours of sleep a night to juggling a husband, household, 3 rowdy boys, and a full-time career. Well, Cheyenne, this sounds kind of like a fun comedy show.
It does. It does. I've had several friends say, you guys should have a reality TV show.
I love it. That's so funny. Well, I'm excited because you're going to be giving us a unique perspective on something we haven't talked about on the show yet. And that's the role of being a stepmother or a step-parent. So I really appreciate the fact that you're willing to come on and speak so candidly about this. Because I think it's something that is really a reality in our modern day world. And so many people either have a step parent or may be becoming a stepmother or stepfather. So I think that that's something that can be brought to the forefront, and we can understand better all of the positives that go into that role. So how long have you been a stepmother of these 3 rowdy boys, as you mentioned?
My husband and I have been together for a little over 4 years. Well, we started dating about 4.5 years ago.
Okay.
And the boys have lived with us full time for, about 2.5 years.
Oh, okay.
We're in that window.
Okay.
And then for 1 school year. So since I'm a teacher, my life goes by school years.
Yes, of course.
So we spent 1 school year doing like 50-50, sharing the boys and the time with the boys.
Oh, okay. So it's even changed since you married your husband.
Yeah, we actually, so when we got together, when we started dating, we knew each other in high school briefly. We started dating. He had moved back from Ohio after his split from his ex to spend time with his family, who's from here. And that's when we started dating. And within 1 year of us dating and being together, we decided to move back. Well, not back to Ohio for me, but to Ohio to be with the boys. So I quit my job here. We went to Ohio and we got a place and started sharing the boys with their mother.
Oh, wow.
For 1 year. And then we decided to come back here and we bought a family home and the boys came with us.
Okay. Oh my goodness. So that's so many transitions. Wow. That's
yeah.
quite a lot to take on. Right. Well, before I get to asking you some of the more specific things, just tell us a little bit more about yourself, your work, where you live, and all that good stuff.
So I'm from northeastern Pennsylvania. I grew up here. I'm a true Pennsylvania girl. I've spent time living in other states, though. In my mid-20s, I moved to Arizona for a year. Throughout all of it, I taught in different states, which has really been a good experience for my career. And then, like I said, I lived in Ohio for 1 year. I am a teacher. I have 2 master's degrees. While I was single, I finished my second master's degree in administration, but I've, for obvious reasons, have decided to put that on hold. So I spent a lot of time teaching English as a second language, Title I reading, as a reading specialist. And this year, for some crazy reason, I decided to go back to the classroom and teach second grade. And this is the year where we have the largest class size pretty much ever. I have 28 students in my second grade classroom. So it's really been a transition, but I love it. I love what I do every day. I'm just exhausted.
I bet. Yeah, second grade is no joke. I was telling Cheyenne before we recorded that I taught second grade for 12 years. And I mean, one of the reasons that I resigned from teaching when my second son was born, and primarily because my husband traveled a lot. But I tell you what, I was tired, and it's hard to go from teaching a classroom full of that age children to then going home to having kids. So I commend you for that, Cheyenne. It's not easy.
We are fortunate that our boys are 8, 9, and 16. So they are more independent. Fortunately, they don't need a lot of help with homework. Actually, they don't have much homework, which is nice. So I don't have to come home and do more school work with them.
Yeah.
But their schools decided just not to have, an extensive amount of homework at night, which is wonderful. Even our high schooler doesn't have a lot of homework, which I find odd. Yeah. But his grades are good. So
good.
Yeah, it is. I'm a whole new level of tired than I was before. And I also commute 45 minutes. So that's another thing. But it's nice. It's nice. And that's part of what I want to talk about today. Like, one of the things is that we have support. We're super lucky to have my mom. She comes to our house in the morning and she comes to our house in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
So that is a critical part of making our day work. I don't have to wake the boys up at 5 a.m. when I get up, or 4:30 and get them off to school, because my husband and I both leave at 6. We both leave by 6 a.m.
Oh, yeah. That is wonderful to have family close by. So that makes so much sense. And how nice that you could move back to PA and be close to family, because that really is everything.
It is.
Yeah. So, speaking of your boys, when you got married, we say that your husband came as a package deal. He had sons already. So, I'm curious about, when you decided that you were going to get serious and, to get married, how did you prepare the kids ahead of time for that big transition?
So the first year we were together, we moved in really quickly. It's so crazy because before we started dating, I had pretty much called off, like, I will never date a man with kids. I don't even want to date a man who's been divorced. I just had bad experiences with dating and expectations that men had and things like that. And then it was like one day on Facebook, this guy who I knew in high school started liking my pictures. And then he said, oh, I'm moving back to town. And we started talking and we went on a date. And within a month, we moved in together.
Oh, wow.
And it's crazy because he was here, he had come back to spend time with his family and he was looking for a place to live. And I said, well, if we're going to start dating, don't get a place. Like, we'll figure it out. If we're going to be together, let's just figure it out as we go. And so he just basically stayed with me in my apartment. And then we ended up getting a house together, like renting a house. And the boys came to visit. So at that point, he just said, Dad has a girlfriend. and they were pretty small. Jacob was 4, so they were 4, 5, and I don't know if the numbers are even right. I think 12.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would make sense. And pretty much I was just the fun, I when he had to work a little bit, so I would take them, mini golfing or to do things like that. And I want to say they visited again in the winter. And it was just really, as the holidays went on, I just thought, this is so sad. They live so far away. It's always going to be hard. He was missing sporting events, and as they got older, he'd be missing school events. And that's when we started talking about, I said, hey, I will move to Ohio. I wasn't really in love with my job or the location of the job I had at the time. So I said, I'll quit. I'll, move to Ohio. And I started researching. I transferred all of my certifications and got a job. I actually had quite a few job offers in Ohio and ended up landing a great job out there. It was definitely a journey. Tim, he works away here and there or has a long commute. And so I found us a place, I found a job, all of the above. And we just picked up and moved to Ohio, and he was able to work there easily. So so we spent the year there, and we shared with their mother, who I had never met or never spoken to. It's crazy. The first time I met her was because their family dog, who they had had forever, she was getting old and she had to be, put to rest. She came to get our oldest because, she didn't want to take the little boys to the vet for, to see all of that. She came to get him. And that's the first time I met her. I was alone with the boys. And I, walked out to, this sad event. She had the dog. They were going to the vet. It was really sad. So that's the first time I met her. And we ended up, end up having phone conversations and talking about juggling the kids. And at first my husband was like, you don't have to talk to her. I will handle it, And I'm like, it's just easier because with the teaching job, I was there more in the morning, there more in the afternoon. I'm just more detail oriented when it comes to things like that. So her and I just started talking constantly about whatever had to do with the boys. And it just went from there. So when we in the spring then decided, Ohio is not the place for us, we had an opportunity to buy a family home. We said, the boys will come with us for the summer, which was the original plan, for them to spend like the whole summer with us. So they came for the summer, and their mother, who she was on her own journey becoming a nurse practitioner, was obviously super busy. She was working in hospitals, getting her degree. It just ended up working out that they would stay for us. And at first it was going to be a year. And I honestly, it was really hard because part of me was like, I don't want them to be away from their mom, but then I don't want them to be away from us. We'll share this time. And I really, I can't really think of the word to describe, but I'm really grateful that their mom made the choice to kind of let go of the reins and let them stay here during her super busy seasons in life.
Yeah.
Because it's what was best for them. And I think her and I have had so many conversations about how things would work, what things would look like, just honest conversations about, we never argued about things like, well, my husband and her and myself, there was no argument of when the kids would visit. It's whenever there's an opportunity for them to visit her, they go, or for her to come here, she comes. So we are super blessed that we have this relationship with her.
Absolutely, to be so open and willing to just work with one another. And I'm sure that trickles down to the boys, that they feel a sense of peace with it all because their parents are okay with it. Would you say that they have transitioned better because of that?
Absolutely. We have had only a few moments of where I can tell, like, for example, when they get picked up from a visit with mom. I have friends out there that I made working in Ohio. So a lot of the time I will just make the trip out, spend a night with friends, and then pick them up at their mom's the next day. And we'll always sit for a while, but the parting is always very difficult.
Yeah.
There's, it's a 7-hour ride. And the first half hour, there's always a lot of tears. And then I start to have tears, and we get through the ride together. But they talk to her all the time. Again, I talk to her. I'm in touch with her stepmother, her mother, and try to share as many pictures and things like that. So we do. We have a good thing going for now.
That's wonderful. So you've really taken on the role as their mom and caregiver and have been so supportive. And, I can't commend you enough for that, because I think that they're in this society, kids are so hurt in so many ways, and whether they have two parents, their biological parents, or not, that, just having that support is so critical at home. And now they have, 3 parents that are helping them. And I'm sure that is hard, but just knowing that they have various adults that they can turn to in their lives is so important for their growth too. So you were talking a little bit about some of the things that you did with them, taking them mini golfing and things like that. But so how would you say your relationship with them has evolved over time? Like, so you started out kind of like as the fun girlfriend, and then, fun new mom. And so, I'm thinking about things such as like discipline, excuse me. How has that changed over time? So from being like just the fun kind of like play date to now transitioning to mom. Could you talk a little bit about how your role has progressed?
So it's so funny because, I just got done talking about all of the wonderful, beautiful parts of the whole, relationship community that we have. It switched over pretty quickly because during our transition moving back to Pennsylvania, my husband had to come here and do some work to the house that we were purchasing. And there were about 3 months, I want to say it was like February, March, April. I was in Ohio alone in this huge house that we were renting with our one dog and the boys. And I was still sharing the boys with their mother. So it was like I was co-parenting with their mom for 3 months and just the boys. And he was here working at his job and working on his home. So I had to step into a real role pretty quickly. And I remember specifically one incident. Of course, they are boys, and anyone who listens to this and knows me knows the stories I have to tell about them fighting and doing these crazy things that boys do. One specific thing I remember, the 2 little ones were taking a bath together at that time. They were 4 and 5 years old, or 5 and 6 at that time. And one of them punched the other one, like punched him in the face in the bathtub. And I was so mad. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I said, you need to get out of the tub and go to bed right now. And that was really the first time where, I had to lay the law down. I was like, he punched him. Why would you punch him? And now I look back and I think like how many physical fights they've gotten in since then. It's insane. And now we just look at each other, and no one ever truly gets hurt. They just, they get on each other's nerves, and punches are thrown, or shoves are, there's shoves and all that. And now it's just like, oh, just another day. You'll be fine. Get over it. Leave your brother alone.
Right. I bet your role as a teacher probably helped too, because you've had to handle disputes in the classroom and things like that too.
I definitely, again, with 28 kids, and even though it is overwhelming, I really have a great class. I don't know what it is about the class that I have. I know a lot of my kids because I've been in the building. This is my 3rd year now. And I do have some little ones that really need love. And actually, a couple of them are living in situations where mom is not there on a daily basis. And they are the little guys that really need the most love from me. and we're 4 weeks in without any major behavior incidents. So I'm really happy about that. And I think, you know, my role as a teacher prepared me to be a stepmom, because I've learned how to care and love for kids who are not my own, you know, who kids who don't even live with me. I really, you know, you grow to love your students. And I've always kept in touch with, especially when I taught 6th grade, my older students, I still keep in touch with some of them, and I love seeing them grow and the things they accomplish. So being a teacher, and I also say being a waitress. So I waitressed my way through high school and college, has prepared me for parenting and step parenting. And then, you know, step parenting has really helped me transition back into the classroom, because I think I really do treat those kids as they're my kids. And I think you'll hear a lot of teachers say that, like, my kids. And people say they're not your kids. And my thing is, most teachers, especially if a parent works full time, a teacher might spend more time with a child than a parent actually does. I mean, and it's, I bless people who work, you know, 40 hours a week, every single week of the year. My career, that just isn't how it works, but it would be really hard to be away from your children that much. So I think it's really important for a teacher to, you know, be a teacher and then also loving and caring to these kids.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I do primarily stay at home, but my son goes to full day kindergarten. And I was just thinking that yesterday, that, you know, his teacher really gets the best of him, like the best hours anyway. And that he's spending so much time at school, and just like, you know, how much I'm seeing it as the other end. You know, I was a teacher for so long, and now, you know, just how much trust we as parents put into the teacher, that, you know, that they're nurturing the kids, and we're praying that they love our kids just as, you know, as best as they can. Because, you know, when he comes home, even though I'm there, he's kind of spent. Like, he doesn't really, and he's a boy too, but he doesn't really want to like talk to me about his day. He kind of just wants to like lay down on the couch. He's so tired, kind of regroup that way. So yeah, I think that's a beautiful reciprocal relationship that you just mentioned between, you know, loving children that aren't yours in several different ways, and those two roles have helped you. You know, being a stepmother has helped you as a teacher. Being a teacher has helped you as a stepmother too. Now we'd like to take a minute to give a shout out to our show partners, Perfect Supplements and Amazon. Perfect Supplements is a family-owned and operated business that supports local farms. Their superfoods and supplements are non-GMO, third-party tested for purity, and contain no synthetic ingredients, colors, or flavors. They're also organic or wild harvested and fairly traded. Products range from collagen and bone broth powders to plant proteins, greens, desiccated liver, and adaptogenic herbs. Perfect also carries vitamins and supplements from other reputable sources, like Just Thrive, Dr. Mercola, Gaia Herbs, Green Pastures, Garden of Life, and Prescript Assist. To check out their wide array of products, go to perfectsupplements.com/Kim. If you use coupon code KIM10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. This is a great way to get superfood nutrition while helping to support our podcast. And just as a disclaimer, it's not the intention of our podcast to provide specific medical advice, but rather to provide you with information to better understand the role of dietary supplements in health. We urge you to consult with a qualified health provider to discuss both the advantages and risks of using dietary supplements. Our other show partner, Amazon, is the largest online warehouse and carries just about everything you need. If you shop on Amazon, which is likely, you can support our show at the same time at no additional cost to you. Simply use our affiliate link to enter the site, then browse and buy, just as you normally would. A Whole New You podcast will make a small commission from your purchase, which helps to support production costs for the show. You can find a clickable Amazon link in the show notes for this episode. You can also go to the products page of our website, awholenewyouPodcast.com, to find the link. If you love our show and appreciate the free information you get each week, please consider buying from Perfect or using our affiliate link when making purchases on Amazon. Now let's get back to the show. I wanted to just switch gears for a minute. and talk about, your relationship with your husband. Because I'm sure, we've talked so much about the kids and they're an integral part of a family, but how do you manage to have couple time with your husband? Because, you haven't been married that long. So how do
No.
you, yeah. So how do you make time to kind of keep it fresh?
Well, so another thing we have going on right now, we are selling our current home.
Mm.
Mainly, the number one reason is because it only has one bathroom. At the time, like I said, when we decided to buy this house, it wasn't set in stone that all three boys would be living with us. The plan was actually for his oldest to stay with us because the high school system is just better here. We live in a smaller town than we did in Ohio. So it would just be a better environment for him. So at the time it was like, okay, one bathroom is fine. Now there are five of us, and everyone's approaching either becoming a teenager soon or adult. So it's very hard to manage. So we are selling our house. It's on the market and looking for a new home. So that's very, very time consuming. I'm teaching second grade. My husband commutes an hour and works anywhere from, 40 to 60 hours a week. And the boys are all three in school. And we have, let's see, the oldest is playing high school football, so he's super busy. And the two younger ones were playing soccer. And we decided to discontinue that, which again, it's just, there's so many things going on with being parents and making decisions and making the right decisions. And that was just something we had to do for the boys and we had to do for us. They were not enjoying what they were doing in this soccer situation that we had signed up for. It was a new thing. And we just decided now's not the time. We need to cut this off and, breathe. So back to us spending time together, we just try to, for the time being, we just try to go out to dinner. This coming weekend, their mom is coming to visit them, and she got an Airbnb. They'll stay with her for the weekend, so we're looking forward to that, to having 2 nights of just us hanging out, doing whatever. So that'll be nice.
Yeah.
But in the past 2 years, we actually got married August 18. So we did have a honeymoon. The year before that, we took a little trip to the Virgin Islands, and we try to do weekend things. We've even, I think it was like 2 Thanksgivings ago, we met their mom halfway between here and Ohio, and we stayed in a cabin over the Thanksgiving holiday. So I try to just squeeze things in, a little trip to the Finger Lakes for 2 nights. And even little things like we'll use our air miles and get free hotel rooms. Like just go to another town, stay in a hotel, get dinner for 1 night. Just different things like that to try to get away. But I try to say, dinner at least every 2 weeks if we can squeeze it in.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I mean, I'm even like taking notes because my husband and I, we've been married for 7 years, but we don't make time for each other. So these are good tips, I think, for any relationship, really, just to kind of, squeeze it in when you can, because when kids are in the picture, they kind of, whether by default or desire, they kind of trump everything sometimes. So I think it's, just a kind of important to nurture that relationship when you can. But I love that you do take time to even plan little, dinners out and short trips. Every little bit helps, I think, a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I think too, and it's so funny. I can't remember how you and I connected on Instagram, but I'm not sure. It might have been on air with Ella.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I want to say somehow through maybe that podcast or something, you probably came up as a related, like this person or follow this person. And that's when I really started to get things in focus. My husband and I, we both grew up in families where our parents did not go out on dates. Our parents did not go out on weekends together. And I look back and I said, him and I have had very honest conversations, and that all the things I've learned through this whole new, personal development, wellness wave that's happening with, all of the authors out there writing their books. And I've read all the books And I've come up with some things that, our relationship, it kind of has to come first. And I know that's a tough thing for people to say or even accept, but when the kids are gone, especially boys, I know I've been, I'm married to a boy, and your boys go. I mean, they're always your boys, but they're going to go. They're going to find their wives or whatever, or their careers, and they're not going to be with us forever. Same thing with girls, but they're not going to be with us forever. So who's going to be left when they go? It's us. So we need to take care of that. And we've had a lot of conversations about that. And, we're what holds everything together. So we have to nurture that. So I just think spending that time together, and even he at times will be like, oh, we can't or whatever. And I'm like, no, we have to.
Yeah.
And even little things like we go to bed very early. There are times I'm like, we're going to bed early. Everyone goes into their bedroom at 8:00 and we'll just watch TV or sit and talk or do whatever. And even just that little bit of time is helpful, going to bed at the same time. I would say that's something that's also consistent with us. We always go to bed around the same time.
That is helpful. I love that you said that, because that makes me think too, because I have 2 boys, and that I've often thought about that I would be like the mother-in-law sometime, and it is different, boys versus girls. So yeah, nurturing that. And you're so right. Having that strong relationship between husband and wife is so important. And it's important to model that for the children, I think, as well, because they are like sponges. Even if you're not saying anything, it's just like your interactions with your spouse, with your significant other. The children watch that and they learn and they grow from that. So I think it serves not only your relationship, but also the kids too down the road. So just in kind of like in wrapping up, what are some positive points that you would point out as being a stepmother? Maybe some gifts that are unique to being in that role, or that you would say, this is what I love about being a stepmother?
I love seeing the boys grow, and, not first, I love when I see that they're growing academically. Being a teacher, I'm pretty close knit with some of the teachers that they've had in the past couple of years, and just getting this great feedback and hearing, how well they're doing in school, how bright they are. And even it's so funny, like our teenager, he, sometimes we're like, I don't know if he said one single clear word to us all week. But then if I go to a community event and see like his coaches, they're saying what a wonderful boy is and he is, and how polite he is. And I tell my husband, I'm like, hey, did you know? Everyone says he's so like social and polite. And we laugh because it's not like he's not bad to us at home. He's a teenager, and some days he does not care to even talk to us. So, just being proud of how they're doing, and the things that they're succeeding in, and that gives me that kind of like real parent feeling, which I know I do all of the things that a real quote real parent would do, but there are, and I'm still on the positive. I do have those moments where I'm like, I'll say to my husband, I'm like, I don't, it's hard because they're never going to love me as much as they love mom. And then just those little moments, but then, days go on, and I do get those little slivers of, wanting to give me a kiss before bed, or just coming in the room and wanting to hang out with me. So there are those little bits, not so much with the older one. Again, he was a teenager when I came into the picture, but I also have those times where, he has a girlfriend and they've been together for 1 year. And this morning, I'm saying, you have to do something for your girlfriend. And I'm like, go to the drugstore, get her a card, write something personal. So I do get, those parts too, where I really get to help them out and just make things a little better, help. And there's all those unappreciated things too, like that kids don't know you do, which I'm sure every parent deals with. But the one thing, and I think I mentioned this when you and I were emailing, my youngest stepson, he is very social. We just went to like this wine fest that is right by our house. And I said, you could, it's very family oriented. It's just, again, small town, um, vendors and things like that. And he rode his bike because it's right by our house. And he went around this festival just talking to all of our neighbors, and
Oh.
it was so funny. He was so social. And I tell my husband, he's like, and he can't believe it. He's like, no way. That's, that's not how that's not how he is. That's not how the other boys are. And I said, no, like, he's just like me. Because that's
Oh,
how I would be, going around and talking to people and whatever. So I do like to see that. And like, oh, I think, I really think he got that from me being like a social butterfly. So I do.
absolutely.
I love that stuff.
I absolutely. And I think, we do become the people that, we're just like the people that we are surrounded by most of the time. And so you're having such an impact in these kids' lives. And, and love comes in many shapes and sizes and forms. And I think just being part of their lives, that love is growing and deepening with every step. And even though, I mean, I think back from when I was a teenager, I don't think I was very nice to my parents at all. They
Mm-hmm.
probably didn't
Oh,
think I loved them at all but during that time, but that's just kind of part of that time in our lives, I suppose. But I think that, just your presence in their lives and being such a positive role model for them is making such a huge impact and forming such a beautiful relationship.
thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing, like I said, juggling it all is so much. And when it comes to parenting, like you said, like I was a terrible teenager. My mom, I don't know what she would even say if you asked her right now how I was as a teenager. It would be bad. But it's so funny because we'll kind of giggle. Like Tim and I will be like, oh, we are so much harder on them than our parents were.
Yeah.
And, there's a reason for that. Like, we kind of learned our lessons. I'm like, we're not going to let you get away with murder, um, because we
Yes.
want you to have like the best opportunities in life.
Right.
But, if one thing I want to add, like, I have really stockpiled strategies to making the stuff work. Like I said, like, I leave my house at 6 a.m., I get home around 4. Just different little hacks that I've come up with to make our lives run more easily. And so if anyone ever wanted to reach out and just talk about those things, especially, the stepmoms out there, communication, schedules, whatever, anyone can feel free to reach out to me. And I'd love to talk about that kind of stuff. So, because I don't have too many other stepmoms to connect with out there.
I like so much that you're offering that to other people because I think it becomes kind of like maybe a sisterhood in a way. And you do need to support each other if there are other stepmoms out there. So if people did want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to contact you? Maybe on social media.
So I would say on Instagram, and it's so funny, I literally have to check what my Instagram name is. It's and I had to check this when I emailed it to you too. It's Chey dot Hinkle Hinkle.
Okay. Is that the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
would say. Messaging on there,
Okay.
that's pretty much.
Okay.
And I have a pretty good feed of different things,
Yeah.
different lots of family photos, but also, like I mentioned, I think in my bio, I love to read. That's
Yes.
definitely my form of therapy for everything. Um, so I have lots of great book suggestions for, anyone out there, whether you just want to escape or whatever. I'm totally a bookie.
I love that. And I think that's a form of self-care for you, which is probably so important that you're nurturing everybody else in your world, your kids at school, your stepchildren, your husband. But I'm glad that you're taking time for yourself. And I love that you're such an avid reader. And you do have a lot of recommendations on your Instagram feed as well. So
I do. I love my books. And like, just to throw this out there, everyone asks me like, oh, local friends are like, where did you get that? Or can I borrow your book? I'm like, no, library. Go to your library. It is like the best resource in the world, the library. And I feel like so many people don't take advantage of all of the features your local library might have. But yeah, that's my thing. Like, it's part of my weekly routine, picking up, dropping off at the library.
I love it. And it is. It's a free resource too. So why aren't we all taking advantage of that? It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I love talking with you, and I think I learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too.
Thank you. I'm so glad we did this.
That's it for today. For more from Kim, you can go to kimmaravich.com. For more from Lori, go to simplyempoweredllc.com. We're always open to listener questions or suggestions for the show. You can email those to contact@awholenewyoupodcast.com. We'd also love it if you joined our Facebook community and followed us on Instagram. Just search for A Whole New You Podcast. And lastly, if you'd be so kind as to leave us a rating and review in iTunes, we would really appreciate that so more people can find our show and join our community. We'll see you next week.